Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe our channel for top trending news. Mistrial declared after jury says it is deadlocked. U.S. Sen. Bob Menendez's corruption trial ended Thursday with a jury deadlocked on all 18 counts against the New Jersey Democrat and his co-defendant, raising questions about the strength of the government's case but failing to lift the legal cloud that has hung over the senator for more than 2 years. U.S. District Court Judge William H. Walls declared a mistrial after jurors were not able to reach a unanimous verdict during more than 20 hours of deliberations. Federal prosecutors could now decide to retry Menendez and co-defendant Salomon Melgen, both 63, on charges that include bribery, fraud, and conspiracy. The most serious of the charges carries a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison. Menendez emerged from judges' chambers and wrapped his children in a big hug as supporters inside the courtroom began tearing up. The trial ended about an hour after the jury sent note telling the judge of the deadlock. "We have each tried to look at this case from different viewpoints, but still feel strongly in our positions, nor are we willing to move away from our strong convictions," the note said as it was read by a defense attorney in court. Jurors said they reviewed all the evidence slowly, thoroughly, and in great detail. "I find that you are unable to reach a verdict and that further deliberations would be futile and that there is no alternative but to declare a mistrial," Walls told the jury before dismissing them. Walls rejected calls from prosecutors to instruct the jury about reaching a partial verdict, in which jurors can reach a decision on some, but not all, of the 18 counts against Menendez and his co-defendant Salomon Melgen. The idea of seeking partial verdicts becomes a little mischievous in the context of the note because then we reach a point where we may be sliding down the slope to coercion, Walls said. Day 6, Menendez trial deliberations continue, with no sign of a verdict. Day 5, mistrial looms as jury continues to deliberate. Day 4, jury tells judge it's deadlocked, but deliberations will continue. Trial, the trial of Sen. Bob Menendez, what you need to know. Menendez, D. Paramus, stands accused of doing official favors for Melgen, a wealthy Florida eye doctor and longtime friend, at the highest levels of the federal government in exchange for luxury vacations, free flights on Melgen's private jets and more than $700,000 in political contributions. The Record columnists Mike Kelly and Charles Stile, along with reporters Nicholas Pugliese and Catherine Carrera, recap the week's action at the corruption trial of Sen. Menendez. Recorded on Wednesday, November 15, 2017. Mitsu Yasukawa/NorthJersey.com. The men, both 63, deny the 18 counts of bribery, fraud, and other crimes with which they have been charged. Fraud carries the most serious maximum penalty of 20 years in prison. A mistrial is a mixed bag for Menendez, who has long held that he would be vindicated at trial and run for re-election next year. Although he avoided a felony conviction that could have spelled the end of his political career, he now faces the prospect of campaigning through much of 2018 dogged by many of the same charges the government first brought in April 2015. The hung jury is slightly better news for Senate Democrats at least in the short term who no longer have to fear losing one of their members in the midst of a pitched battle in Congress over legislation backed by President Donald Trump. Some Republicans had hoped for Menendez's conviction and resignation by mid-January, which would have given outgoing New Jersey Gov. Chris Christie, a Republican, the chance to pick his replacement. Taking a longer view, though, the unresolved allegations against Menendez could be a liability for state and national Democrats next year if Republicans try to build a narrative around the senator's legal troubles and potentially a second trial. For the U.S. Department of Justice, the mistrial adds bite to an already bitter 2017, a year in which the corruption convictions of former New York Senate leader Dean Skelos, a Republican, and former New York State Assembly Speaker Sheldon Silver, a Democrat, were overturned following a 2016 U.S. Supreme Court decision that narrowed the reach of federal bribery law. Despite spending more than 4 years pursuing the case and then calling 36 witnesses and entering hundreds of documents into evidence at the trial, federal prosecutors were not able to convince 12 jurors beyond a reasonable doubt that Menendez and co-defendant Melgen, a wealthy Florida eye doctor and longtime friend, had struck a corrupt deal to trade gifts and political contributions for official favors. Jurors also failed to reach the unanimous conclusion that Menendez had knowingly and willfully falsified his annual disclosure forms in an attempt to conceal the gifts from Melgen, an allegation in the last count of the indictment against the men. Menendez failed to list several round-trip flights, a $875 livery service and a $4,934 stay at a Paris hotel, among other gifts paid for by Melgen, on 4 of those forms between 2006 and 2010. In total, Menendez faced 12 felony counts, including 6 counts of bribery, 3 counts of honest services fraud, 1 count of conspiracy and 1 count of interstate travel to carry out bribery. Melgen faced the same charges except for the false statements accusation. The trial, which started September 6, thrust Menendez into the middle of a national debate about some of the thorniest questions in politics, such as what is an appropriate friendship with a politician and what type of influence money can, or should be able to, buy. Prosecutors described how Menendez advocated in meetings with executive branch officials for positions that could help Melgen in his multi-million-dollar reimbursement dispute with Medicare and a contract dispute one of his companies had with the Dominican Republic. The senator also helped foreign women get U.S. visas to visit the married doctor in Florida. In the same time period, Melgen was providing the senator trips on his private jets, letting him stay at his home in a Dominican Republic resort and making $660,000 in political contributions to entities that could help Menendez win re-election in 2012. Defense lawyers said there was no corrupt motive behind the friends exchanging gifts and vacationing together. They argued throughout the trial that Menendez's meetings with government officials, though they could have benefited Melgen, were what members of Congress do and were grounded in legitimate policy concerns.